All right. Well, welcome to the Gav, Zoe Reeve, aka Travel with Zoe. How are you
Thank
doing?
you. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this,
You're welcome.
especially after such a long trip. I'm sure you're tired on the back end, and the last thing you want to do is sit down and give yet another interview. But I appreciate your enthusiasm.
No worries. I quite like just chatting about random stuff. So,
Yeah. Is that like a big appeal of traveling? Is that you get to meet people and just have random chit chat?
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how like different people in different countries. I mean, I have a theory that like everyone in the world basically wants the same thing, but it just comes across differently in different countries. Do you know what I mean? So, in certain countries, how they show love is by inviting you for food. They love to cook for you. In certain countries, how they show love is, I don't know, showing you around their hometown. Or in certain countries, they just want to sit over a coffee and discuss politics with you or whatever. But like in every country, people obviously want, you know, loving human interactions. They want to meet new people. They want to discover new things. Do you know what I mean? So yes, of course, it's interesting.
How have we been showing you love here?
It's different here because I'm on TikTok. So obviously here, like people show me love by taking selfies with me,
Gotcha.
giving me food, giving me rides. Somebody today, like, it was crazy. She was on my TikTok live and she sells juice like at a juice stand. You know, she makes it at home and she sells juice like by the side of the road. And she was on my TikTok live, like literally just now, like in my room. And she was like, "Oh, you need to come by and try one of my juices." I was like, "Yeah, I really want to. Like, can I walk there from KMVC Hotel?" And then she didn't reply. And then one of the housekeeping ladies knocked on my door and she was like, "A girl is downstairs with juice for you." And I was like, "What?" And then the girl was like, "Yeah, because you said you're at KMVC. I came and I brought you the juice because I was passing to go to the market." I was like, "Oh my God." So she just brought me watermelon juice.
Oh, that's so nice.
I know.
Was that the watermelon juice you were just drinking? Oh,
it
wow.
was so
Well, for the
good.
record, it smelled. I could smell it. It smelled amazing.
It was watermelon, turmeric, and ginger. So her juice stand is called Momo Moish, something
Okay.
like that. So yeah, shout out to her.
Oh, awesome. Well, that's I'm happy to hear you're being treated very well. But just based on your videos and your updates and stuff, it just looks like you're having a really positive experience. And I know this is your second time here, so
Yeah, well, technically third because last year I left to go to Suriname and then came back. So like technically it was 2 trips.
Oh, okay.
Did you get it last year? But
gotcha. How come you decided to do Guyana again?
I just usually feel like not just here but in lots of countries that I leave and I haven't seen everything. I mean, naturally you wouldn't have seen everything,
100%.
right? Like even in a small country, Ghana's like a relatively small country compared to most countries in the world with a really small population. So maybe you would think you can see it all in a month, but come on, like even in a certain city, I think there's just always more to discover, especially because, you know me, like I'm interested in like interviewing a food vendor or things like this. So that means that like I need a lot of time in one place to feel like I've like covered all that ground. So I just felt like there was so much more that I hadn't seen. I hadn't even been to the famous Kacha Falls. I hadn't been to Letem. I hadn't done so many things. And plus I made friends. I wanted to see my friends again. I wanted to make more comedy content with Professor Moore. Like, I wanted to go back to the ITEL shops that I liked eating. I just wanted to come back, like, I don't know. And obviously it was MASH as well. And so I wanted to experience MASH. Everyone was saying, come for MASH, come for MASH.
Yeah.
So.
No,
Yeah.
I think that was great because so many. Yeah, I was having this conversation the other day about MASH and what it means, and a lot of us compare it to Carnival in like Trinidad, for example, which I know you've been to. But yeah, it's so nice that you actually came for MASH because we're saying we really need to get the word of MASH out there.
Yeah, but that's so interesting to me that I really didn't see like any foreign people at MASH. And like, I know, okay, it's not a carnival. I mean, what's your definition of a carnival?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
basically a carnival, but cool. Like if you look at like an international carnival calendar, MASH is on the calendar, right? Like if you go on like a Soca Instagram page that shows all the carnival news from around the world and you look at like a 2024 carnival calendar, MASH will be on that calendar, right? And all of the other carnivals on that calendar, as far as I'm aware, have people from America flying there, have people from England flying there, people who like soca, they travel for carnivals, right? They travel to Trinidad Carnival, they travel to Miami Carnival. Like any carnival you go, or anyone that I've been to, has like quite a large international crowd. So I just thought that MASH would have some foreign people as well, but I didn't see one. I'm sure there were a few.
Yeah.
But like, I really didn't notice like any foreign people that came for MASH. And yeah, like I said, I'm sure there must have been some, but to me, like MASH has been around for who knows how long, but I mean, definitely for longer than I've known about Ahsoka or about these types of events. And so I can't understand how it's been on like these international carnival calendars for, you know, as long as I've ever seen an international carnival calendar, and nobody's coming, especially when, or not nobody, but like comparatively nobody's coming, when like the costumes are like 5 times cheaper than how much you have to pay to participate in Trinidad Carnival. And I mean, like, why not? Like, to me, that's crazy that it's so small.
Well, I think that, you know, and I, again, not to spend too much time on this, I know people get a little sensitive, but, you know, MASH, unfortunately, I guess for the most part, it isn't marketed or sold, especially locally, as like a carnival or lack of a better word, a party, you know? And and the entertainment factor is, in my opinion, a lot of the reason why people would fly in to come to something like that. You have artists performing. We have our local artists performing. I think they just haven't achieved the full out of border recognition yet.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so we're working through it. And then in that same vein, we have a few other carnivals that are very
the cricket carnival.
The cricket carnival and the
But do many foreign people come to the, because I haven't been here for cricket carnival, do they?
Many foreign people come for the cricket,
okay,
and then the carnival. So you know you have that influx, and then you have the international artists, and so it's you know, debatably way more appealing.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose now that I've like reflected on what you said, I feel like for MASH, like you'd have to be someone who like really is genuinely interested in experiencing like the culture,
exactly,
not just coming for a party.
And then my argument was, well, not argument, but my question was with one of my previous guests was, well, what is the culture with MASH? Because it's been so up and down, we kind of debate. I know that's not a conversation.
But whatever it is, like it can still be interesting. I mean, you don't need to know what it is to like be open to come and experience that.
As the one of the few foreigners, what was your experience for MASH? Like, what did you take that as?
I mean, obviously people can get mad at me, but obviously I was comparing it in my head to all the Caribbean carnivals that I've been to, because it pretty much a very similar thing is happening, whether you want to call it a carnival or not. And so compared to like the carnivals I've been to, which includes, you know, St. Vincent, Trinidad, Jamaica, whatever, like it was smaller in a sense that it felt like more family friendly, the road parade was quite short, like there were like not that many people on one truck. It just felt like kind of like smaller, which is like good and bad. Like for me, it's actually quite good because, you know, I'm not like 20 years old anymore. I don't want there to be like hundreds of people around me and deafening noise. Do you know what I mean? Like for me, that's actually quite good. I'm quite a chill person. Like for me, it was good that it was like quite quiet. And like it felt like if I was to like leave my truck for 20 minutes to, I don't know, go and buy some food or whatever, I could easily come back and find it. It wouldn't be a problem. I wouldn't have to push past like thousands of people to get back to my truck. It wouldn't have probably gone that far because the route's not that big. Like, it felt like it was safe for like kids to be out there. They weren't going to get like crushed by a crowd or like, I'm not saying other carnivals are unsafe. They're not, but like, it just felt like extra friendly, like extra family friendly. Mm-hmm. And one thing I really appreciated having recently come from Trinidad Carnival is, I don't know if you know about this, about like the common complaint about Trinidad Carnival is that they play the same like 10 new Trinidad soca songs. That's all you basically hear on the road is like the same like 10 popular Trinidad soca songs for that year. So I've just come from Trinidad where like I wanted to hear all these other songs, maybe a few old ones, maybe a few from different islands, whatever. But like I was basically just hearing the same ones. So it was so nice that the trucks here, they were playing like Bajan soca, like some older soca, some newer soca. Like the range of like soca that they were playing was way broader because obviously we're in Guyana, so there's not that much soca coming from Guyana, so they have to just play soca from other places. So for me, it was really nice to hear like a wider range of music. That was like really refreshing.
For sure. And Guyanese selectors are pretty good, you know.
And they the type of like way that you guys like to party here, like they love like quite like steamy like soca. They love like Temper and Young Brother, and I love that kind of soca. So yeah, it was fun. Like I would happily like do it again. And yeah, it just felt more like it was for everyone, because there's something that's become very exclusionary about like carnivals like Trinidad, in a way that there are so many bands now that are costing $1,000 for a backline costume, and the security is so tight, which if you're paying for security, it should be tight, but you know, that is like exclusionary by nature, that the only people that can be behind the trucks are the people that have $1,000. I mean, there's other bands, but you get what I'm saying?
No, 100%.
Whereas like here, wasn't really like security because it wasn't really needed. So at a point, like you could either go on the truck if you want to be away from the people on the ground, or you go behind the truck and so do the people on the ground. And so there's people in costumes with other people all getting to experience that together, which like to me was quite nice. So it felt like maybe a bit more like community vibes where it's for everyone and not just for the people who can afford to or who choose to pay for a costume, you know.
Yeah. It's no VIP kind of setup.
Yeah,
it's all
or
kind of marching.
it's a bit VIP-ish if you're going to stand on top of the truck the whole time, which I obviously chose not to do, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. I'm not like criticizing those people, but for me that would be a bit boring to like just stand on the top of a truck and watch like the crowds from that's just not my like style. So yeah, I spent my time on the road, but yeah, there's something like politically like nice about that as well. Do you know what I mean? Because like any event like this, whether you want to call it carnival or not, but like any event that, you know, is for the whole community should be for the whole community, like in my opinion. So it was nice to see that like actually being in practice like here, you know.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time. I mean, I saw you did MASH in Buxton?
I did 3 mashes for 3 Sundays in a row.
Oh, they were different weekends?
Yeah, so the main one was in Georgetown.
The St. John Road, yeah.
Like on the first Sunday that I was here. And then the next Sunday was Linden and the next Sunday was Buxton. And I think this Sunday is Kakwani. It doesn't stop.
Even I actually
I'm not going, but yeah. So I did the...
Which one was the best one? Not to push you on the spot, or which one was the more memorable experience?
I think probably Buxton.
Really?
Yeah, Buxton was so lit. And I knew Buxton was going to be lit because it's in Buxton.
Yeah.
So like...
First time in Buxton?
No, last year I went there and I spent a day in Buxton. I did a vlog and I like met people. Yeah. So because I'd been there last year and I knew like what type of community it is, I was like, this match is going to be lit. And it did not disappoint. Like as soon as it got dark, there was like literally like 30 motorbikes like surrounding our truck, and like all these boys were like, like on the bikes, and then I was just like hopping on random bikes and like go for a ride, and like I don't know, I don't know, the vibes there were just different, like especially when it got dark, it just got like really lit. But again, still for everybody, like the kids were still there, you know, like and so many people were out like selling food, and like I don't know, there's just different things going on. Some people were just enjoying it from like a bar on the side, and some people were enjoying it by following the truck, and I don't know, it was just fun.
Nice. I just want to like talk about, I know we kind of spoke about this briefly before we started, but you know, just to give a little context to your crazy life. I mean, just going around and you know, exploring and having these amazing experiences, travel, you know, how'd you get into this? I mean, is this something you just one day wake up and decide, yeah, you know, I think I'm going to go travel around and document my life and generate this massive audience?
No, my audience isn't even that big yet. But no, so basically...
What was your background? Like, what did you do before?
Just any job. So like I went to university, I studied French and Spanish.
Okay.
And we had obviously like holidays from, you know, you have the summer like off when you're studying at university. So like when I was a child and my parents took me on holiday, sometimes I always found it really interesting. I always like wanted to see more of like what was going on in those countries. I was just kind of nosy about like what was going on. And so I always knew like, oh yeah, when I'm older, like I plan to travel, you know. And then when I was like 16, I first went to Carnival in London. We have a really big carnival, Notting Hill Carnival. It's like the biggest one in Europe. We have like, I can't remember the most recent numbers, like 2 or 3 million people that come every year. And so yeah, I first went to that when I was 16. I come from a place where like, it's not diverse, it's like the countryside, but it's like an hour outside of London, right? So you can get into London like on the train. So I went to this carnival when I was 16, like in London, and I was like, what is this? Like, whatever this is, I want to know about this, because like this is the one day in my life, like apart from maybe when we had the London Olympics, that I've seen like strangers just like having a great time with each other, like in the UK. And like, what's this music? And there's like all these girls in these costumes, but some of them are fat, some of them are thin, some of them are old, some of them are not. Like some of them are black, some of them are white, some of them are Asian, but like they're all like acting like everyone's beautiful. And I mean, not acting like everyone is beautiful, but they're all like, I don't know. I was just like, what's this amazing thing that's going on? Yeah.
Accepting.
And then there's like, you know, these babies on their dad's shoulders, like holding hands with a woman in a costume, and like all this food everywhere. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on right now, but like I need this in my life. So then I went back to my little countryside place and I literally had to Google like, what is carnival music? Because like I didn't obviously know, because no one would have told me growing up in a white area. And so then, yeah, I just learned it from like YouTube. But I first got into dancehall actually somehow because of that. And so then I wanted to go to Jamaica because I was into dancehall. I started going to like dancehall parties in London. And so when
Dancehall's pretty big in the UK though, right? Like fairly big.
Like,
It has a market.
yeah, like in cities, but
Yeah.
I'm from the countryside.
Okay.
But
right.
even in cities, like you're more only going to know if you end up like kind of in that circle,
Gotcha.
really, through knowing somebody who's Jamaican or just through knowing somebody who likes it, or you discover it on Spotify, or who knows.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to go to Jamaica obviously because like I loved dancehall at this point. Like I literally, when Vybz Kartel went to prison, and we had the carnival. I think it was the carnival the next year, or like a few years later. I literally, because you know you wear like outrageous outfits. I didn't get like carnival costumes by this point, but you dress up in like your little crop top and whatever. I literally wrote "Free Cartel" on my stomach and eyeliner, like for the carnival. I have a photo, it's hilarious. Anyways, so yeah, I really wanted to go to Jamaica, obviously. And so yeah, when I made my first money from like working a summer job, like after the first year of university, I had like a summer job at the Wimbledon tennis tournament, you know, that famous one. And it paid me like £1,000 in total. So I was like,
Nice.
well, I'm going to Jamaica. Because at the time I didn't like need the money for anything else, because the government, they provide help with like your like university fees and stuff. So I didn't like need that money for like anything like that. So I was like, okay, I can spend the money. So yeah, I booked a flight to Jamaica, but I didn't tell anyone. Like I just did it. And I told people after, because I've never been somebody that wants to hear like anyone else's opinion.
You went alone?
Yeah. So I booked this flight, and then I was like, okay, where am I going to stay? And I didn't know about all these like couch surfing and all these things that you can do to like stay with strangers around the world. But I was like, there must be a way that I can like stay with a Jamaican person, because I just want to learn what's really going on in Jamaica. So I Googled like, how do you stay with a local person on your travels? And I read like loads of articles. So then I discovered like the couch surfing. Well, it's an app now, but it was a website back in the day, because this was in like 2013. And these are the like apps and websites that you can use to like stay with local people, basically. Some of them where you like volunteer in exchange for accommodation and food, like volunteer on a farm or stuff like that. And so yeah, I couch surfed for 2 weeks in Jamaica when I was 19 with this lady that lived in Golden Grove. It's like a community up in the bush near Ochi, near Ocho Rios. And it was just so amazing. Like I made friends with this girl who worked in a rum shop, so I would like help her serve the drinks, and you know, we'd like be silly with like all these men that came in, like you know, yeah, just have fun serving their drinks and choosing the songs and trying to dance and whatever. And then like she had these friends, these boys from Kingston, like they drove down on the weekend and like took us to the river, and the boot of their car was just full of this huge block of ice and all this rum, and they took us to a strip club. And like, you know, I discovered ITEL food because I was vegetarian, but I didn't know specifically about like ITEL foods. And then I discovered ITEL food, and then like had all these conversations with Rastas, which is actually why I turned vegan from vegetarian. And so after that, I was like, well, duh, like this is obviously how I want to travel, because I've just had like the best 2 weeks after everybody told me, oh, you're going to die. Your organs are going to get harvested. Like, so you can't stay with strangers, especially not in Jamaica. So then I realized like, obviously I didn't believe those things, otherwise I wouldn't have gone. But like after having had such an amazing time, I was like, well, not only are they like a bit wrong, they're like super wrong. Do you know what I mean? So I wanted like people to know that whatever conception it is that they have of like random people in Jamaica, that they think all of them are going to harvest your organs, like I wanted them to know that that was like clearly not the case. So then I started like a WordPress website. So I actually paid for like a domain, and I was like, what should I call it? So I was like, Travel with Zoe. So Travel with Zoe was actually born in 2013. So I paid for
started as a blog.
Yeah, I still have it actually. It's travelwithzoe.org. But I've had to delete like a lot of my old posts just because either they're inaccurate because the information is no longer valid, or like I'm not a fan of like how I wrote it, so I need to like redo it. So I've hidden like a lot of the old posts, but there's still some old-ish posts in there. Like it's still functional. You can go and look. So yeah, I paid for travelwithzoe.org, just chose the name like randomly. They didn't have .com, they only had .org. So yeah. So yeah, I used to spend like a really long time. Like when I would then travel, you know, after that, if I'd stay in like a backpacker hostel or something, I'd make sure it was one that had a computer. So I'd come back from like my day out at like the waterfall, and I'd come back and I'd sit on the hostel computer and be like, so guys, you take the bus number 82 from next to McDonald's by the gas station, like telling people like how they could Travel Like Me or whatever, and, explaining how the waterfall is and what my experience was, and tell a little story about the coconut vendor who I had a nice chat with on the way home and whatever. And so, I just started like doing that. But obviously people it never took off. Like, I think that was at the point where people were starting to switch more towards wanting videos more than writing, I think, maybe I'm not that good at writing. Actually, I am good at writing. I don't know. I don't know, whatever. For whatever reason, it never like took off like that.
2013 is the rise of the socials.
Yeah.
The short form and the
YouTube as well was like big then.
Yeah.
So I did try a few times. Like I bought a GoPro and I tried it on a few trips, but it wasn't really for me, like walking around with a huge selfie stick. Like it was like too unnatural for me. So like I tried it, and then I tried like sometimes on Instagram to like be quite, try and create these like interactive stories where people could like vote or whatever. I tried like with Instagram, but people were interested. Like I often would get comments like saying, oh, I want to travel like you, take me. Like I knew there was like something there, but it never like took off. And I guess when you're not doing it full time, it's not going to take off anyway, really, because I was always so after I graduated, I would just do like any jobs where I could get like a lot of time off. So I worked in schools because there was like long, you get like the vacation time from schools. So I'd do like temporary jobs or jobs where it's like quite flexible. They don't mind if you just do some extra hours and then take like a week off or whatever. So I'd just do like any jobs. But mostly I was working with like disabled people and like working with children and stuff like that.
So professions by nature accommodate the travel for the most part.
Yeah. And like I'm passionate about like social justice and stuff. So that's why I chose to like work with like vulnerable people or with children or stuff like that. But basically it was so that it could be flexible for travel. So like I just knew that like there was something interesting like about my travels and stuff, and I just knew that I really wanted to like show people that maybe they were a bit wrong about like, well, I can't say they're wrong because who knows what happens to them, but in certain countries, but I just felt like maybe people like were maybe lacking certain information about like travel in certain countries or what it's really like there, so I just knew I wanted to share this somehow. So I still carried on with the writing the blog, but as time went on I was like a bit not motivated by it because it takes a long time to write articles and not much was really coming back from it. Like I got like a few messages, oh, you inspired me to do this, but like just not really enough. So I was a bit like, oh, I don't know, like maybe I just can't.
It's also kind of a after the fact kind of action, whereas where you're vlogging, you're in the moment kind of.
Yeah, but I think you can still write in a way that like makes it seem like you were there.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe. There are some articles I've written that I really like, but I don't know. Anyway, so I was kind of like, oh, maybe I can't. And like, so I just always, on every trip, I'd be like, oh, like I wish I didn't have to go back and work. Because my trips would mostly be like 2 weeks. I went to like Gambia, I went to like Ghana, Vietnam, like random places and places in the Caribbean too. But it was always like 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because I would just take that time off work and then come back. And then I always like would discover these really cool things on like the second to last day. Like, oh, you can actually cross this border into like Thailand or, whatever. And I always just wished like, oh, I wish I didn't have to go back to work. Like, I wish I could just do that. Like, I always just had this dream of like an open-ended adventure, like, just like the open road. Like, I don't know, there's just something about like a backpack and like an open road that like was just always, I always just like wished I could like do that really. But yeah, I was just always like, oh no, but you can't just do that. You can't just go, like, what will, I don't know, my family say, or, you can't just do that. Like, well, you can, but I don't know. So, yeah. And, at some points, maybe I had like a boyfriend and I was like, well, I don't want to leave England because I have a boyfriend. Or at one point I was like in a situation where I was potentially going to be like buying an apartment in London, and that's a long story, but I didn't want to leave because I wanted to do that. And, to get a mortgage, you have to have your pay slips from your job. So it's like, oh, if I go, then I won't be able to buy a house. Like, just like different things. I was like, oh no, like I just can't. Yeah. Kind of. But then basically like me and my boyfriend broke up. The apartment I was going to buy, it like fell through. And these things kind of happened at once. And then like COVID had just finished and I'd been saving money during COVID. And so when everything like that just happened, I just felt like, and I also kind of like quit my job because some stuff happened with that. So I was kind of just like, you don't really have anything here. Well, okay, I have like my family, but as in you don't have anything like keeping you here. So why don't you just go? So then I just went.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's kind of cool. I mean, well, first of all, with the blogging, even though you don't really do that as much or anymore, it's in a way it's super important. My wife and I do a lot of hiking in the U.S. national parks, So we just sort of get like a camper van, and we would camp out on the road, and we'll go hiking every day. And, one of the biggest resources were these women who travel like solo, and they go on all these hikes, and they blog about it.
Yeah.
So we find all these amazing trails.
Yeah, I still find stuff now from travel
Yeah,
blogs.
right. So like, we've had some of the most, we've seen some of the most amazing places based on blogs she's read. Obviously, she does all the work.
Because sometimes they put like all the instructions, don't they? Like you
Exactly.
literally
You
take
need
the
to
bus
take a left
at
here, and
32
then you'll
minutes
find a rope a mile up the road. It's
they're
crazy.
always so funny like that.
But it's fantastic, and I think like it's important. I hope it doesn't die.
Yeah.
in
Well, I
place
tried
of-
to restart. So I went to Morocco in like October or November, just last year. And so I actually wrote like 10 articles about Morocco, and that was my first time writing in like 3 years or something. So I'm trying to do it back. But the problem is I don't travel with a laptop or anything. So like
I'm sure there's monetary value in that too. You could write for like a
yeah,
travel blog
I
or
kind of
something.
have always wanted to write for like, those airline magazines.
Yeah,
Because they get like random features. Like, sorry, but I definitely like could. I just don't know how. As in, like, I know I have enough to
you're
say.
so confident in your writing, and you should get just a sign to get back on the horse, man.
Yeah.
I also want to ask you, and I love what you said about the Jamaica thing, where so many people have these reservations about, especially I guess being if you're a solo woman traveler and you're traveling alone, and there's a concern for safety and stuff like that, which is a legit concern.
Yeah, like,
but how do you reconcile that? I mean, like, what's your approach to like getting out into the world alone? Like, you have to have a certain amount of trust in people.
Yeah, I mean, if some people don't want to travel solo, whether it's because they're a woman, whether it's because they're not white, whether it's because they are not rich, whether it's because they're a refugee, whether it's because English is not their first language, whether it's because they have a physical disability, whether it's just because they think the world is a scary place, that's fine. And I would never tell anybody like that they're wrong or that they should travel alone. Like, of course, you should travel alone if you want to travel alone. Do you know what I mean? And like, it's not for me to say that the world's a nice place, or it's not for you to say that the world's not a nice place. Like, we all just are living through our own eyes. So who knows really? But for me personally, like, I personally believe that if you were to pluck like 1,000 people out of like the population in the whole world and put them in this room, and then we were to like look at them and figure out like, or guess like how many of them would actually kill someone, like legit, like how many of them are actually murderers, probably like 2. Do you know what I mean? Like, how many do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like,
I think there's way more.
We can even give it 5, but the point is it's less than 1%, right? No matter if you pluck them out of Guatemala, Guyana, France, or Vietnam, it's probably less than 1%. Even if you pluck them out of like, the last time I checked, the city with the highest murder rate was somewhere in Mexico, like I think near the border with America. Like, probably even if you pluck them out of there, most of them just want to go to work, take care of their kids. Do you know what I mean? Like, most people in this world are simply not murderers. Like, they're just simply not. So in my opinion, if like less than 1% of the world are murderers, and it's way less than 1%, it's highly unlikely that the car you hitchhike with is going to be a murderer's car. Like, it's just highly unlikely. Like, it's just so unlikely. And like, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm actually okay to take like a 0.2, let's call it that, % chance. I'm okay with that. Like, if it means that like I get to see the world and that every day I get to like experience all these interesting things and like just love life the way that I want to love it. Like, if one day, like, how I might die might be by getting in a murderer's car because I took the 0.2% chance. Okay.
Happy with that.
Do you know what I mean? Because actually a lot of us are just going to die from like a heart attack or something anyway. And
sitting on your couch,
like,
doing nothing, not seeing the world.
So I just, and I think there are certain things that the chance is much higher. So I think for me personally, there's a very high chance as a woman that probably every day I'm going to experience like harassment, which can sometimes be scary. It can. And I'm not like, saying that that's insignificant, because it's not. Like, being a woman is really scary, like lots of times, and it's really frustrating. And like, no matter what country you're in, there's like so much harassment, and men think it's okay to like follow you, to call you disgusting things on the street, even in broad daylight, to tell you what they want to do to you in broad daylight on the street. Like, lots of horrible things happen as a woman. But personally, like, I'm not going to let that stop me, because otherwise, like, they've won, really. Do you know what I mean? And so for me, like, unless you kill me or really severely, like, disable me, basically, like cut off my legs or something, like, it's kind of worth it to me. Like, if I have to experience harassment every day, it's still worth it. If I get my phone stolen once a year, it's still worth it. If I get, I don't know, pushed over in a bit of an argument, it's still worth it. Do you get it? Like, once I don't die or get like severely like injured, then I'm okay
Yeah.
with it's my choice. Like it's still worth it for me. Do you know what I mean?
I mean,
So
it's life. In a
yeah.
way, you know?
So I just think, most people aren't murderers. It's really important to remember that.
Sure.
And like, you can also just use your brain because, like, to be honest, well, your brain and like your experience. Obviously, I first solo traveled when I was 19. I'm about to turn 31. So like, I've had 12 years of having to figure out whose car to get in when I'm hitchhiking, of having to figure out whose couch to sleep on. Like 12 years of experience is like quite a lot.
Well, based on that experience, though, like what are some of the, like, you know, you've obviously built up like a knowledge of how to go about doing certain things. You've been in so many different places, had so many different experiences.
But it's like subconscious.
Is
Like
it just a gut
asks,
thing?
Yeah, it's so subconscious. Like I can't like say. But the thing is, I also like wouldn't really want to say because then I feel like if I say it's this and this, then some weird man can act all these things that I said and then like kidnap me. But I don't know. Yeah, like.
Well, if your gut hasn't failed you
I don't know how to.
then you're fine.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, obviously, like sometimes I'm a bit wrong. Like sometimes I get in a car and it's not quite what I think. But luckily, they're not the one murderer in the lineup of 1,000. They're just somebody a bit higher up the line who maybe like is trying to guilt trip me into kissing him or calling me strange names and trying to ask strange questions about my personal life and trying to say that we should go to his house and not my destination. But luckily, I can get through that. I can like figure out how to navigate that so that I still do get to my destination and so that I don't die. So again, once I'm not dying, like, I kind of chose the wrong card. You know what I mean? Yeah, I did. Like sometimes it does like fail me or whatever, or people sometimes might manage to trick me a bit. But well, again, once I don't die. Like,
That's always the conundrum. I mean, I guess it's how you handle it. But thank you for sharing that. I've always sort of wanted, because the experience is so much different from males versus females. You know, males have their own challenges.
Yeah, like definitely there's certain stuff that's easier for me because I'm a woman as well.
Yeah.
Like I do think overall, like we live like in a patriarchy like that. The world's a patriarchy, and so I do think that like male privilege like is a thing. But I also do think that I have learned very well how to like use.
And nothing wrong with that.
Gotta
like, use what you have.
Make the patriarchy work for you. I do that every day. Like literally, like, you know, like if I tell a man I'm hungry, like he's probably gonna find me some food. And like I don't know, like I'll just
I wish I could do that.
tell him with a bit of a smile. Like I don't know. Like you definitely have to make the patriarchy work for you, sorry. And you know, obviously appearing vulnerable, which as a woman you like often do, and especially as a white woman, can like sometimes be good and sometimes be bad, can't it? I mean, it can be good in the sense that like if I'm at a beach and it gets dark and the buses have finished because I misread the bus timetable, if I look, you know, vulnerable and innocent because I'm a woman and because I have a British accent and because I'm white and whatever, then this family over here in the corner, a family of women, will probably drop me home because they think I'm not going to hurt them if I get in their car and they see themselves in me, so they want to help me. Whereas if I'm on a beach and the same situation, the buses have stopped and I look weak and vulnerable, blah, 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 but the only people on the beach are men who maybe don't respect women, then all of a sudden my position is not so much a privileged one because I'm now their target. Like, so it depends who's on the beach. Do you get it? Like, so I just think
100%.
You have to use your like characteristics to help you be safe in whatever way you can. But
you must have some safeguards. So I mean, like obviously everywhere you go, you have like whether it's your parents or somebody, hey, by the way, just letting you know I just got here, or like maybe
my mum, like I send her every pin drop of where I'm staying, and I say like it's with this man John who I met at the market yesterday, or like it's at this hostel or this guest house. I mean,
even for me, for example, and just sorry to cut you, like when I asked you to do this, it was like I think I reached out to you a couple of days ago. I was like, you know, you were very like accommodating, and obviously you must have looked up the page for the podcast, whatever.
Yeah, I just clicked on it.
But I was like, you know, I hope like I'm really happy you did it. But some part of me is like, okay, I hope like, you know, she's comfortable, or I've done what I can to not make it just be like, you know.
No, I mean, like once I clicked on it and it was a real podcast. And, you know, some people come up with these like some people are like, well, the whole thing could be fake, and I'm like. It could be, but like, what are really the
time? Who has the time?
I mean, okay, maybe one day, guys, maybe one day that's how I'm gonna get kidnapped. Someone's gonna construct an entire like fake podcast, and like, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but like, I can't be asked to think about that, like honestly. So Yeah. But I feel like I was going to say something. Oh yeah, and also with my mum, we have like a secret emergency word. Obviously, I can't tell you what it is, but let's just say it was. It has to be a word that like you don't usually use. So let's just say it was like pomegranate or something, like something really random. Then basically like we have this word, and then if I'm ever like literally being kidnapped or in a situation where I can't like make like a call or say like I'm being kidnapped, then I would just like phone her and be like, oh, I ate a pomegranate today. You know, like basically me and her both know that if this word ever goes in a sentence, in a text or like a call, then she needs to like send a search party like right now.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking beef Wellington for some reason. But yeah, no, I hear you. And yeah, and that's nice. I mean, I assume you obviously, yeah, it would make sense. But that's cool, man. I kind of want to talk about like, you know, how you sort of have, where did the social media documentation sort of fall into it in the travel? Like you started with the blog, obviously, but then did it like, is the social media funding any of the travel or assisting with it? Like, is the travel, how dependent is the adventure on your vlogs and stuff like that?
Yeah, so well, TikTok does pay me because I'm in the creator fund, but it's so low how much they pay you. Like the most I've ever made in a month from TikTok is like £100, which can't really like, I mean, it can buy a few groceries, do you know what I mean? It helps though still, because I'm able to live quite cheaply because I just eat like rice and lentils and bananas and I just take the bus for like £1. But you know, still £100 a month is not enough. So yeah, that pays me like, let's say £100 in a month from TikTok itself. But obviously as a content creator, you would more make money from like collabs or like partnerships with people who are not TikTok itself. Yeah. So I've got like a few of them, but a lot of my collabs don't pay me. They just like give me like accommodation for 3 days or whatever, which like, yeah, sometimes it's good and sometimes I realize maybe it wasn't quite worth it or, you know, but obviously the more followers you get, and obviously my platform is growing every day, like obviously the more followers you get, the more likely it is that you'll get like paid collabs. So I've had a few, but like not enough. So, but it's still like the connections can sometimes can be really helpful. I mean, for example, I've got this collab at the moment, which is like probably my favorite one that's happened in a long time, which is at the same hotel where you picked me up from, KMVC. Like they were like, hey, we want to like like host you whenever you're in Georgetown. And I was like, finally, like someone's coming with something that actually helps me, because when people just want me to go to their apartment that they rent out for like 2 days and do some nice videos and then leave again, it's like, well, I'm not really any better off than I was 2 days ago, because now I have to find somewhere else, or I have to like pack up my bags, go there, take a bus. Whereas KMVC, we had a conversation and yeah, I was like, I think we're on the same page, because I want somewhere that I can leave half my stuff if I'm going to Letten for 3 days and I can come back to the same place and I know I can always come back here. Do you know what I mean? And so, yeah, we like nobody's paying each other any money, but like they've become my like home in Georgetown. And they said like, if I come back to Guyana, I can stay there again. Like it's like a ongoing thing that like, obviously they know they'll get content from me. Like obviously I want to push that they're a nice place to stay because I think they are and I really like them, and that's really cool. Like stuff like that is worth more than money to me, because now I know that anytime I'm in Georgetown I have like a safe and friendly place where I'm comfortable, where I can stay, that's in the same place every time. So now I can get to know that area, I know where I can walk to, where I can get my food, my friends know where they can pick me up from. Like that's worth more than like £200 for a promo video, do you know what I mean? So when you get like collabs like that maybe don't involve money but are really valuable in other ways, then that obviously does really help me to travel for longer, because now I at least know coming back to Guyana will be easier next time because I have them, you know, there. So
it's like a stability as well, like just
like it just felt so nice to know that I could just go back to the same place and see like friendly faces, and yeah, it was actually been really nice. But yeah, I also teach English online, like English as a foreign language, a little bit, just to get a bit of like pocket money.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that do that actually.
Yeah.
One of my friends/colleagues from the UK does the same thing. It's been
Yeah,
doing it a while,
it's a good thing. But I mean, for me, it's obviously no way full time. It's just a little bit here and there. But any money is helpful because, like I said, my expenses can be, if I'm not paying rent, then like my expenses can be quite low. So actually getting like £10 from an English lesson can definitely last me the day. Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm just buying a food, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I also trade stocks and shares.
Oh, nice.
Was like gambling. So sometimes it makes money and sometimes it doesn't. But when it makes money, it's good.
Yeah. Then you could have a 5-star vegan meal.
Yeah, and there's a few other things. I have like a affiliate marketing code for one thing, so I get like commission. And there's like a few things.
Yeah. You know, because you're sort of you're a lot of your content is based on budget travel.
Yeah.
How do you sort of, you know, I remember like when before I said I'd go, I just come pick you up because you weren't that far from here. You know, you'd ask me, oh well, what bus? I said it's better we just meet at Movie Town because that's like a more like a neutral location. And you said, oh well, what bus do I take to Movie Town? I like have no idea. I just know like this the 44, the Mahaica, Georgetown Mahaica.
Yeah.
But you know, like it's interesting because a lot of tourists, even the ones on budget, don't necessarily take Guyana, the public transportation system.
Yeah, oh my gosh, you should read the last time I read it anyway, last year, the UK so you know the UK government, they have like a little paragraph about every country and you're supposed to read it before you go there. Not even like a warning, but just it says they have these customs, whatever. And so I read the Guyana, I don't care what the UK government says, but I read the Guyana one just out of interest, like before I came last year. And unless it's changed, I don't know, we should look it up, but it was literally like, do not take the minibuses. They are extremely fast, extremely old, and they are very prone to crashing or something. And I was like, oh my God.
Well,
so before
they're
I came
not
in, yeah, but I'm sorry, like I've read the descriptions of other countries that have the same minibus system. And the UK has some beef with Ghana because I have never seen it being phrased, or not never, but like usually it's not phrased. It was literally like, do not get on them. I was like, oh my God. So anyway, like for me, like they're not really any different from, you know, in Jamaica or in like,
no.
I don't know, it's kind of normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird because sometimes I get like travelers or tourists or backpackers like messaging me on Instagram like about Guyana, and one actually messaged me the other day like, oh, I heard about you, like people said I should meet up with you, whatever, like asking for advice. And really usually they say like, oh, I don't like Georgetown, like I'm in Georgetown but I don't like it, I want to go somewhere else, I want to go outside of Georgetown. I'm like, why does everyone hate Georgetown? Like I met these people in Trinidad, they had like come from here like before, some travelers, and they were like, they literally used the word crimey. I was like, what is even crimey? They were foreign, so I'm sorry, the English wasn't their first language, to be fair. Sure. But yeah, they were like, Georgetown felt really crimey. And I was like, what? Bro, you've come to Trinidad, like Port of Spain feels way more crimey than where are we in? Georgetown, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, people really seem to not like Georgetown, which is funny to me. So yeah, I guess maybe they wouldn't get on the bus. I mean, if they feel that way about Georgetown itself, I don't know how they're going to feel about the buses.
Yeah, no, for sure. But like you, they read a lot of these notices, which, you know, a lot of them have some truth to it, but it's like anywhere you go, man, there's, you know, potential bad to happen, not just Georgetown, you know, but like, I think like the sort of thing is that most foreigners that come in, they're kind of like, at least for tourism, they headed straight into the interior to like eco travel or whatever.
But okay, like I wish this could change about Guyana. So I find that like it's this weird, okay, I don't want to say weird, but okay, most countries I've been, which I've been to 49 countries in my life, I think it's 49. Like most countries I've been, there's an option for like a kind of package tourism where, you know, somebody's made this itinerary and from the airport they take you to, not every country has an interior, but they take you to like, you know, a place with the eco lodge, and then they take you to this other like a safari thing, and they, you know, this like package where you get transported from like experience to experience if that's what you want. Cool. Most countries have that as an option, but most countries in my experience also have it as an option that you can just do those things by yourself. You can just take a bus or a train or a coach or whatever they have in that country to go to like this countryside place that has eco lodges and has campsites and has other things, and you can do it on your budget in your way. Like you don't have to like be transported all the time, and you don't have to like stay in this eco lodge where they cook all your meals. You can like camp and you can go into the village and you can buy your own food in a local thing. So like you can backpack or you can have it organized for you. But I find that in Guyana, obviously I'm a backpacker, but like you can't really backpack like in terms of like, you could hitchhike the trail. I actually want to do that. You could hitchhike on the truck to go to Letem. I 100% believe that you could successfully do that. And you could stay in a cheap hotel in Letem. And okay, like maybe you could hitchhike to like some indigenous villages, but like there's not really buses like from Lethem to that many places. I mean, some of these villages have
Infrastructure.
yeah, like they
setup
have like
isn't there.
one bus per
Yeah.
day, or maybe not
Yeah.
even every day. Apparently, sometimes it's not even every day, and there's not really like going to be really budget places to stay. In some of these places, your only choice is like a big eco lodge, and okay, maybe you'll meet a local person who you might be able to pay them to hang up your hammock outside their house or whatever. But yeah, the infrastructure for like anything below, you know, this like eco thing where you're transported from eco lodge to eco lodge is just not really there, like in some parts of Ghana. And I just think it's a shame, because that's fine if that's how you want to travel. I'm not saying it's bad, but like I just wish it could be a bit more accessible to like other people as well. Do you know what I mean?
You know, maybe we're onto something, because I talk a lot about tourism here and its potential. And I always say this idea of eco travel, as nice as it is, it's for a certain demographic that pays like high margin value.
Yeah, and
for,
I
like,
saw
these
some of them like,
experiences.
like I'm allowed to laugh because like they're from the same place I'm from, but like, you know, you have this stereotype of them in your head, like the bird watcher type.
Oh yeah.
So we
They're
were
all
on the
from the
trail to
UK.
Lethem, and I was like, how do they all actually look like the stereotype? Like there was this group that was like bird watching, and we passed them like on the bus, and when I tell you, they all had these like trousers you can like zip off half of it and it like comes off, and this like hat that's got this like flappy shade at the back, and they were all like age like 45 to 60. They all had these like straps with their things hanging around their neck and this fancy water bottle, and I was like, oh my god, they actually look like how it would be in the movies, or like they actually look like this. Like
And there's you zooming by on the motorbike back, just going on the trail. Yeah. No, but
yeah,
that's our market for our ecotourism, right? And,
Yeah.
and it's a good market, but there we also miss the opportunity for backpackers.
yeah, but obviously
younger
backpackers
people.
don't really bring as much money
They
as
don't-
these people.
but they're not,
like
if they're coming in numbers,
Yeah.
we stand to gain a lot more.
yeah,
And then you give opportunity to smaller businesses. You're not gonna go
Yeah.
stay at the Marriott or the
Yeah.
Pegasus. You know what I mean?
yeah, because it would open a window for like more like campsites to be built, and
100%.
more I don't know, hostel, like backpacker hostels. That doesn't really exist here. You can put like 5 bunk beds in a dorm, it can sleep 10 people, and you can charge £15 per person.
Exactly.
Like
It just opens up the tourism economy a bit
yeah,
more.
and more like street food tours, and
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
it's kind of like funky little bars with like board games and ping pong, and like that kind of vibe could like
Oh,
be
that's
pushed
real
more.
hostel vibes.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And maybe then people like those people might enjoy experiencing MASH, and like I think it would be cool. And surely, like, I know it is all about the money, but it shouldn't all be about the money. Like, should also just wish like everyone could just experience.
Yeah,
Other
the
cultures
money
and-
the money will come though. I mean, if you provide that experience, like, if everyone had your view on Guyana and went back and spoke positively about it,
Yeah.
people will come to Guyana. They'll find out about more opportunities beyond just the tourism. Like, it'll happen, But it just starts by opening up these micro industries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like what happens, because obviously they are trying to develop it, but really everything I've seen them trying to develop just caters for like the people we were talking about. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see.
Have you-
Because backpackers will still hear about it, like even though it's getting developed for people who are not backpackers, like they'll still hear about it and they'll still be curious, because the more it gets pushed, they'll still see it.
Yeah.
So like how I tried to come and backpack, I'm not the only one. There are still other people that try to come and backpack. So it'll be interesting to see, maybe eventually if enough people try to come and backpack, people might see a gap in the market for like a hostel, or for, I don't know. I'm very interested to see like how the tourism landscape like changes.
Speaking of, I actually was speaking of birding, I was doing a video on birding the other day, and I was not even in the deep eco lodge. I was in Mahaica. I don't know if you have been to Mahaica. It's right up the East Coast, not too
Yeah.
far, like maybe like almost an hour from here. Anyway, or Georgetown. I was on the Mahaica River, and there were these two Americans, a couple. They were pretty old, like I would say in their 40s, older. And they were teachers, so they weren't like a ton of money. They're not here to spend a ton
Yeah.
of money. But they were commenting. They also were gonna take the bus from Mahaica to come back to Georgetown. I was like, let me just give you a drop. But they were commenting to us how they found it quite expensive here in Guyana. And they're
Yeah.
from Brooklyn, New York, and things in New York City and cheap. So I thought that was quite strange. What has been your experience in terms of like buying stuff or paying for stuff? Like, have you
Yeah.
been? What do you think about the rates compared to other countries like
Yeah.
Guyana?
So like now, because I've basically been traveling full time for 2 years, my concept of these things has almost disappeared because I'm always going from this currency to this currency, from this economy to this economy. I don't know what's happened to the English economy. It's like since I've really been gone, I've half forgotten how much things cost there now. So it's become like weird for me now to compare like that. It was much easier before. But I do remember, yeah, when I first came here last year, I was really surprised that I was seeing a small watermelon for $1,000. That's £4. Like even in England, where the watermelons are being shipped from who knows where, they cost like £2. So how is that making sense when they're grown here? They're costing twice as much as being imported to the UK. Like that doesn't. Yeah, I do think groceries here are a bit expensive. But then I think like fast food and stuff is reasonable. Like when I'm paying like $1,000 for a box of ITEL food, you're not getting that in the UK for £4. So it's weird because it's like some groceries are more expensive, whereas like fast food and alcohol as well is cheaper. So I don't.
Alcohol's cheaper here, you find?
Yeah, like if you're gonna go on, like if me and you now went to like have a few beers and get some fast food, we'd spend less than we would in London.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas if me and you now go grocery shopping, we'd spend more than we would in London. So it's weird. It's different things. I'm sure it's very complicated, the reasons why.
No, for sure.
But yeah, it's definitely, I would say it's definitely not a cheap place. And like transport within Guyana is insane. Like to go from here to Madio or here to Letham or whatever, the fact that it's costing you in pounds, what, like more than £50, that's insane. Like to
On
me.
a bus?
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go to Malia, by the way? What was that like?
Oh, because I wanted to go to a gold mine.
Oh, that was a thing. I want to go see a gold mine.
Like I was going to a gold mine.
Okay.
Nothing was stopping me.
How does one even go about doing that? I'm going to go to a gold mine. Who can help me?
Yeah. So I was in Linden for Linden Mash and I have a few friends there now. So I was hanging out with them. I'd been in Linden for a couple of days and I was due to leave. I'd had like 4 nights in this guest house or whatever. So I was due to leave the next day and I was like, they were like, where are you going? And I was like, I don't know. Like I could go back to Georgetown because I have KMVC that I can stay at. But I really want to go to a gold mine, so maybe I should do it from here because Linden's already part of the way towards like the interior or whatever. So I was like, guys, like, how can I go to a gold mine? And then my friend, he was like, well, there's quite a lot of gold mines near Madia, so why don't you just head to Madia and like ask around? And I was like, tell me more. Like, do you think I can actually do that? And he was like, well, yeah, the buses go like every day. Like I can help you, you know, find a bus. And, you know, I'm sure if you just ask around, like somebody will know somebody who can take you to a gold mine. And obviously so many things on my travels just come from asking around, especially from before I had TikTok. People think, oh, it's just easy. She has TikTok. Everyone invites her everywhere. But most of my travels happened when I didn't have TikTok. So how did I do it then? Do you know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So then, yeah, got a bus to Madia the next day and it arrived like when it was dark. So I asked the bus driver to take me to the cheapest hotel in Madia because obviously I need my money to stretch as long as I can so I can keep traveling as long as I can. I'm sure you saw the videos of that hotel.
Yeah.
Wasn't really a problem for me. Found it kind of funny that it came without a bed sheet because that's never really happened to me before.
How much was it per night?
2,000.
Okay. Nice.
Quite good.
Yeah. Steal.
Yeah. So I went and bought a bed sheet which cost like 4,000. So that's quite
So they
fun.
get you the extra charges.
But anyway, whatever. And then, so when I was going to buy the bedsheet and to go and look for some dinner, I had asked these ladies who were just like sitting outside like a shop, you know, selling. They were selling, but they had no customers, so they were just sitting outside. I was like, oh, hey, do you guys know where I could find some ITEL food? Because somebody had told me there's an ITEL man who comes out at night. And so they were like, oh, yeah, he comes out under this tent over here, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, oh, like one of them said, are you a teacher? Like she didn't recognize me from TikTok. So she thought maybe I was a teacher. Maybe that's why I was in Madia. And I was like, no, I'm actually here to like find a gold mine. And then this other lady did recognize me from TikTok from the group. And then she was like, oh yeah, don't you know her? She's a whatever. And then so they were like, you want to find a gold mine? And I was like, yeah, like I just really want to go to a gold mine and like take videos and stuff. So do you guys know anyone? And then they pointed out this man who was literally like over like 2 meters away. There was this group of men just like hanging out on the street, and he was like, oh, go and ask that man, his name's Daniel, like yeah, he works in a gold mine, I'm sure he'll take you. And then I think they even shouted like, oh, Daniel, talk to her, you know, whatever. And then so I went to him and he like half recognized me, like he was like, oh, aren't you like from TikTok or whatever? And then I was like, yeah, can I please come to the gold mine where you work? And he was like, yeah, okay, I'll pick you up in the morning. Like there wasn't even, like there was barely even, he was just like, I don't know. I can't even remember what he asked. He didn't really ask much. He was just like, oh, okay, like, what? You just want to come? And I was like, yeah, I want to take a few videos and I want to sleep in the camp. And he was like, you want to sleep in the camp? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, do you have a hammock? And I was like, no. Like, what should I do? And he was like, oh, okay, you can use my hammock. And I was like, thanks. And then I was like, do I need to bring food supplies? Because I'm vegan, so I don't know what food that like there is, or should I bring stuff? And he was like, oh no, I'm vegetarian, so it's okay, you can eat what I eat. And I was like, okay, are you sure? So I don't need to bring anything. He was like, no, just I'll pick you up in the morning. So I was like, okay, here's my number. He was like, here's my number. Where are you staying? I was like, the hotel down there. He was like, okay, I'll see you in the morning. So then I didn't even know which gold mine, I didn't know anything, but I was like, okay, seems cool. So then he picked me up the next morning and we went to the gold mine.
How far was it?
Maybe like 40 minutes, less than an hour.
So you couldn't find your way back if you were, it wasn't like or was it like one trail?
Kind of, there was actually quite a good trail, which surprised me because I thought gold mines were like super in the bush, like you had to like go through the trees like this or something. But no, there was actually like a decent trail.
Yeah.
But I didn't think I would have to find my way out. Like I was feeling the vibes. Like
Yeah.
I didn't have any like.
Were there a lot of guys on site?
Yeah, so it was a really small gold mine because it's locally owned. It wasn't owned by like a big company. It was just owned by like
small scale.
Yeah, it was a really small scale one. So in the camp that like I was at, there was maybe only about 9 hammocks in that marquee tent thing. So yeah, there was like 9 or 10, let's just say 10 like main guys that were like around. So it was really small and they were just really chill. Like they're just people. Like I don't know, they're just coming there to make their money and go back to town. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
And yeah, some of them we didn't really talk. Some of them were kind of quiet. They were maybe on the phone to their family because Digicel had a bit of signal in the bush. So I'm not on Digicel, but the ones on Digicel, they were like talking to their wife or like whatever. Some of them didn't really care that I was there, but some of them were like saying, oh, like, what do you think of it here? And I was asking them questions like, oh, how often do you see your family? Like, you know, some of them were like happy to answer my questions, not like on camera or anything, but
yeah.
Yeah. And then they were like, do you want to see how we find the gold? I was like, yeah. They were like, come with us. So then we went down.
Saw you with the batel and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that was just maybe a 10-minute walk from the camp itself. And they just showed me stuff and I just sat there and watched and tried to find some gold in the mud bricks.
Yeah. Did you find any?
No, but they gave me like a tiny piece as a souvenir.
That's kind of dumb.
Yeah. And then, yeah, like in the evening, we just sat and talked a bit. But I think my favorite part was when I did you see the 2 pork knockers in my video?
Yes.
Yeah. So I spent some time in their tent because they obviously have like a different camp and they're really funny. Like I literally want them to have their own TV show. I think they're so funny. Like I would love to like follow them around for like a whole week. They're like, you know, like troublesome twins. I don't know, some kind of little duo. Like, yeah, they're really funny. So I enjoyed like hanging out in their tent. I asked them so many questions, like where do they keep the gold? Because, you know, they often don't go home for like months. So there must be a lot of gold, right? Like and they're just living in a tent. So like, how do you secure the gold? Like, I'm not going to tell you how they do, but, and yeah, just all sorts of questions that I never even realized I had before being there, you know?
Yeah. It's such a crazy experience. I mean, gold is such a big part of our economy here, and you know, a lot of people from wherever will just go into the interior and work gold for months and then come out and, you know, repeat that process over and over. Yeah. And the reason I kind of just asked you like, well, how did you stay that far away? Is because these guys are there for like, you know, just months without seeing anybody, and then a random like woman from the UK shows up, slings a hammock. It's like
they literally like didn't care. Like I'm not joking. Like sometimes, yeah, people think that like a lot of people on my travels, even when I do really weird things, they're just like, okay. Like honestly, a lot of people like really don't care. Like a lot of them genuinely were just like, hey, and didn't speak to me for the rest of the time and didn't even look at me. Like truly, honestly, like people just mind their business sometimes. Yeah. And like, yeah, obviously because I just slept in his hammock. He slept in the car. He was like, it's good because I get to sleep with AC. I was like, okay, if you're sure. So, you know, there was no extra hammocks. I was just taking the place of him. Like, I don't know. It was like normal. I don't know. And then in the morning, they made so much noise from like 5 a.m, like blasting out dancehall on their phones from literally like 5 a.m, like getting ready and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you, do you have a process with like that, like when with your recording and stuff like that, or do you just sort of wing it? Whatever interesting is happening, you decide to make content.
Yeah.
Because if nothing's going on, then is it second nature to you to pull out your phone and stuff like that?
No, I definitely wing it. But what I find like hard, or not hard, but like, well, the thing I'm still trying to balance is like, you know, like YouTubers and stuff who film like everything, like they have the GoPro and they don't want to miss a moment of content. So if they had gone to that gold mine, they would have had like 2 hours of footage. They would have like interviewed 5 gold miners. How often do you see your family? Blah, blah, blah. They would have filmed the cooking process in the kitchen tent and all these things. And like they would have, when I was in the gold miners tent and we were, the pork knockers tent and we were having all these conversations, they would have made sure they filmed all of that and whatever. But like, and I'm sure their content would have been amazing. And like, sometimes I wish that I did that too. But like for me, I really don't want my content to like, I want my travels to be the number one thing and my content to be the second thing. And I don't want it to switch. And I just feel like for me, that experience just simply wouldn't have been so natural or so good if I had a camera in their face. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's like, sometimes I feel like it's hard to find that balance between, because sometimes I'll be chatting to someone and I'll realize like halfway through the chat, whether it's a coconut vendor or whoever it is, I'll realize halfway through like, oh my God, this is so interesting. Like I wish I could document this for future like generations to see. And like sometimes it's just like the one I always think of is like there was this bus driver in Dominica and I was the last one on the bus and he was telling me that he was a teenager when like independence happened and it was like so emotional. He was telling me about how when he saw the new flag raised for the first time and the wind just blew it perfectly and like all these things. I was like, oh my God, like I just so wish like this could be documented because it's just so beautiful. But at the same time, like I can't ruin this moment. Do you know what I mean? Because this is him like telling me his, you know, deep like things and me listening, and like it's just such a balance about when to like say, oh, actually I'm a TikToker. Do you know what TikTok is? Especially because remember half the older generation don't even know. Do you mind if I, but then it's like you've ruined the moment, but at the same time, maybe it's worth it because you're like preserving, you know, certain things because like once it's on the internet, it could be there like forever. Like, and it could be really important for other people to see that. So that's like the hard thing is like ruining the moment versus getting the content, you know?
Yeah. I'm just so interested in that because, you know, I noticed like, you're like, oh, well, you know, I don't have that many followers. You have 100 and something thousand on TikTok.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like, you know, does it come to a point where, you know, obviously you want this to grow and this to be as sustainable as possible. That comes with more viewership, more bigger audience. But then to do that, you kind of do have to produce the content as much as possible to make it more, you know, so you're kind of constantly battling that, you know, I mean, it just feels like, you know, maybe at some point you kind of have to make, do you think you'll have to make some hard decisions, but just like how you approach it, not necessarily ruining the moment per se, but your approach to content creation, like will have to change if you're going to step it up.
Like, to be honest, I'm really not like a planner. I really just take everything like as it comes. And for example, like today I've decided my new thing that I really want to do before I leave is interview one of the people that makes kites for Easter and sells them on the street. So I actually wanted to do that this morning, but some days I don't feel like confident enough because it's actually like awkward, you know, like walking up to people and being like, hello, I see you're selling kites. Is it okay if I ask you a few questions? Oh, okay, you make them yourself. So basically I'm a TikToker. You know? Like that whole thing, I actually don't have the capacity to do that every day. So this morning I just wasn't feeling it. So I'm going to have to try tomorrow. But yeah, so that's like my new thing that I've decided I want to get this content before I leave. And so usually it just comes like that. That was sparked because I was in a car today and I saw these kites and I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like I want to do this. So usually everything just happens like that. Like it just happens randomly. I really don't plan. And don't know, you could say that's why I don't have more followers, or you could say that's what got me this far. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's worked out so far. I didn't mean to put that pressure on you, by the way. I just, you know, I just wanted to know what the mindset was.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just think I just have to keep going and like just keep seeking out like more ideas and more like interesting things. But I know that the things that people are most interested in are things like that, where like I, you know, chat with somebody who maybe wouldn't usually be featured that much on social media, or like do something that not that many people, like the gold mine.
Yeah.
You know, so I just think I need to like think of more not alternative, but like, less maybe popular ideas to like do. So in Trinidad, for example, I really want to follow around a nuts man for the day. So in Trinidad, they have a lot of people selling, like, I guess here too, like the roast peanuts and stuff like on the road.
Yeah.
You know, it's often like rastas, and this is like a random thing, but like I just really want to like follow around a nuts man for the day because I want to know, like, do they roast the nuts, or like where do they get the nuts? Like how often does it take them to sell out? If they have like 100 bags of nuts, like do they enjoy it? Do they have a certain thing that they shout that gets them more customers? Do they have regular customers? How do they approach people in the car to buy the nuts? Like, is this their only job? Do they have another job? Like, you know, I want to like do more stuff with people who you don't see on social media that much, basically.
Yeah, for sure. You kind of want to find your unique niche.
Yeah.
To cover. Yeah. Do you find it like hard to get interviews from people here? Because I mean, you have a few, and I feel like I saw one with one of the Eitel guys, the chefs, and I thought that was great. You know, he was so personable.
I love those ones so much.
Those are kind of like gems, and when you interview someone and it just goes really well, and they're so charismatic and lovely.
Yeah, it's actually kind of hard. Because I would say out of everyone who I've ever asked since doing TikTok for an interview, probably like 75% of them have said no. And they're not even like no. They're just like, oh, can you come back another day when like I'm more prepared? Or like, oh, I'm camera shy. Or a lot of women are like, oh, no, I'm not wearing my makeup or whatever. Which really sucks because some people are like, you only hang out with men. There's only men in your videos. And it's like, firstly, that's not true. But secondly, I do find that more women than men are like a little bit resistant to like having the camera in their face, unfortunately. Yeah, and some of the older generation, especially like some of like the Rastas and stuff, they think TikTok, they're a bit like scared of TikTok. I don't know, like maybe they don't have the app, and so maybe they don't fully, maybe they've heard a few things about it, and as soon as I say the word, you could say video, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe, but then I say, oh, TikTok, and they're like, oh, I'm not going on that, I'm not going on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what they think happens.
I think because like here culturally, the platforms TikTok and to a lesser or maybe the same extent Facebook, you know, you kind of, people are scared of being captured out of the context and then put in like a certain narrative, not by you per se, but just we kind of have some like channels here that do that. So I guess maybe people have this hesitancy. Yeah,
but at the end of the day, like, really, if you say no, then I absolutely respect. I'm really 100%. Not going to try and force anyone to like do it. And you know, sometimes maybe people didn't want to, but then maybe they see that the other ITEL man did it, and actually they like how it came out, so they're like, okay, fine, you can do it with me. So that's always like nice when that kind of thing happens.
For sure.
But yeah, like you can't force anything. Like obviously everything just happens how it's supposed to. So yeah.
Just a couple questions in closing. Like, what's next for you?
So they give UK tourists a 1 month stamp when you come to Guyana.
Okay.
So my stamp runs out like on Tuesday. So I'm leaving on Tuesday to go back to Trinidad, just because I came from there just now and there was like a few collaborations and stuff I didn't have time to do. So I'm just going to go back to like finish up some stuff. So I'll maybe stay there for, I want to stay like a month maximum, because time is ticking. This whole year, all I've done is go back to places I've already been. And I keep like saying, I want to go to Latin America more. But the Caribbean just keeps pulling me back. So I'm hoping to, head to maybe like Venezuela or Colombia or like Guatemala or like Nicaragua, Honduras, something like that from Trinidad. That obviously the flights are kind of reasonable.
Yeah.
It's quite nearby. Because, I just really want like a new challenge. And traveling in the Caribbean, like obviously I've done it so much now. It's obviously still a challenge every day, but it's a bit less of a challenge. People speak English here. Like I want to like challenge myself a bit more and go to like, Colombia is a huge country where, I do have a degree in Spanish, but it's still not my first language. It's much harder to navigate, the entirety of Colombia than it is to navigate like Trinidad or like a small island. So I want to like challenge myself a bit and see how that can work with the content when I'm making content in English in a country where English is not the first language.
Yeah.
That might be a problem.
Oh, you haven't done that yet?
Really? A few times I made content in like Thailand, Vietnam, but it didn't do very well at all. But that was like a while ago, maybe a year ago. So maybe now. Is
that because like most of the influencers go there to Thailand and stuff?
Maybe, but Asia. Also maybe because like TikTok shows your stuff geographically, so it pushes out your videos to people who are in your current geographical location. So if it's pushing out my videos to like Vietnamese people, well, no, sorry, it was Malaysia, not Vietnam. To Malaysian people, well, they can't understand what I'm saying if they don't speak English, so they're not going to care. So, and then it still shows your videos to an extent to like your original followers, but it is weird how it's a lot of people who actually follow me, they'll be like, I didn't see one of your videos from Malaysia. Like the algorithm is really weird like that. So I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm going to try. And like, obviously I can't let TikTok dictate. Like I want to go to Colombia regardless. So if my videos do badly, well, I'll just have to teach more English to make my money. Like, I don't know. So yeah, I want to do some stuff in Latin America. And then, I don't know, thinking about going back to St. Vincent for their carnival, maybe. It was really fun. I went last year. We'll see.
You're a carnival junkie, man.
Yeah.
Well, I love it.
I always like say, oh no, I've done enough carnivals now, but then another one happens.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. You know, this is also, and then you say you're not a planner, but you know, you're so like free-spirited and love to travel. Are there ever moments in your life where a part of you craves like stability in terms of like, oh, you know, I kind of, not necessarily like partnership or anything like that. I just mean like being like in one area and like really digging your heels in there and having a life
like
there.
when I
Does
go
that
and
appeal
stay
to you?
at like people's houses and they have like not even like fancy houses, but they have like houses where like they have cute little pictures on the walls and they have like a comfy sofa and they have like all their seeds and things and their blender in the kitchen and like little recipe book and like all these things and all those like little photos with their friends and their computer and their TV. I'm just like, oh, my life's a bit sad, isn't it? Like sometimes. But yeah, like, and then sometimes I stay at their house for like a few days and I get a bit comfy. Maybe they even have a spare bed for me where I can lay out all my things. And then, yeah, when I have to put everything back in the backpack after that, it does feel a bit like, oh, is this really my life? But then I soon get over it when I like have to find my way on an exciting bus journey through the bush or whatever. But yeah, no, like obviously it would be really great if there was some way to have both, like, which I suppose maybe if I did different things with my money, then maybe I could have maybe like bought an apartment in England and found a way to like work remotely and just travel a lot like from there or something. Like I'm sure there are ways to like have both. Or also I sometimes think like if I had a bit more success like with my TikTok and it paid me more and stuff, then maybe I would just try and like, okay, let's say I'm going to Colombia and I had like a bit more money, a bit higher budget for that, then maybe I would like choose a city or town that looks cool and maybe like rent an Airbnb for like a whole month in that town and then travel, maybe do a weekend away like from that Airbnb. But like at least then if it's like a whole month, it's maybe worth it to like buy a few seasonings and do you know what I mean? Like I can actually take the clothes out of the backpack. Like, you know, it might feel a bit more settled. So I would quite like to maybe be able to do that. Just like stay in one place, like maybe just a bit more, you know, as
it's
time
like
goes
slightly
on.
closer to settle than
Because I don't really need my own house right now. But yeah, even still, like even especially when I was in Dominica earlier this year, and lots of people in Dominica have built kind of like eco-ish houses, because obviously I would want like a eco kind of house. I'd want to grow my own food, stuff like that. And I definitely saw like a few houses there like where I felt, you know, very like at peace when I was there. And I did start to think, maybe I could
get used to this.
Yeah, like I don't know, but I want both, so I can't decide. But I just think everything works out how it's supposed to. So I think at one point like I'll just be somewhere and something will happen, whether that's that I'm staying at somebody's house and they say, actually, do you know what? I'm going to go to England for a year. Do you want to house sit this house for a year? Or like something will just happen. Or they'll be like, actually, I'm really trying to sell this and the price is super low because it's just the board house and I just want to get rid of it so I can move or whatever. Or maybe I'll meet somebody who says, oh, like I want to open like an eco hostel by this river. My uncle's got the land. He'll let me use it. I'll do the building because I know how to build from wood. You do the social media. What'd you say? Like, then, you know, like I just think something like that will just happen, like how it's supposed to.
You're manifesting.
And if that's supposed to happen next month, I'm sure it will. If that's not supposed to happen for another 3 years, I'm sure then it'll happen in 3 years. And obviously there's still like relationships and stuff, like, you know, obviously that can change things. Like I'm not gonna like stop traveling for a man, but like obviously if I met someone and we like literally fell in love, then I'm sure I would probably try and spend some time with them and that might dictate a little bit, you know, the direction of my stuff. So
Yeah.
I just think the universe will just dictate it.
Do you believe in manifestation? Like, I mean, not necessarily, oh, I'm like hoping for this specific thing, but you sort of put that out there and it sort of comes.
Mm, not really like that, because I don't really know exactly what I want to come. I just believe
Gotcha.
that, like, in life, if you just follow, like, if you just stay true to yourself and you just try and live to your morals and you just try and do what you're passionate about and what you believe is your purpose, then like the right things will just come. But I don't think I know what the right things are. I don't think that's for me to know. I think it's for the universe to know.
Gotcha. And lastly, I guess I just want to ask you, 49 countries, that's, quite a bit. In all your travels, like what, you've obviously been to vastly different places, different cultures. When you sort of put it all together, what have you learned about the world? Like, what is your like one takeaway from like, I guess
gosh.
humanity, I guess.
Kind of like what I was saying at the beginning, that like I really think whether it's a Muslim country, whether it's a Christian country, whether it's a country where lots of people live in cities, whether it's a country where lots of people live in the desert, I just think that we really actually do all want the same thing. I just think that we all want like some kind of direction in life, whether that's our career, whether that's our football training that we do every evening, whether that's doing the best job that we can at raising our daughter, like whatever it is. I just think we all want some kind of like fulfillment from some kind of like project or, thing that we're working on. I think we all want like love around us, whether that's from our boyfriend, whether that's from our community, whether that's from our siblings or our nephew. Like, do you know what I mean? We just all want like loving. We want to be loved and love, whether that's like romantic or not. And I think we all want some enjoyment, whether that's that we love cooking and eating food, whether that's that we love having a beer every Friday, whether that's that we love going to experience live music at our local pub, like whatever it is, we all want some kind of like thing to just relax. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think we literally all want the same thing. It just looks different, like in different cultures. So, and also I just think that capitalism is ruining everything everywhere, but that's for another time.
Join us on part 2. But I hear you. Well, Zoe, thank you so much for doing this again. I really enjoyed talking to you, and thank you so much for using your platform to show the world Guyana, especially showing them a side of Guyana that we don't get to see really from your point of view and in the mainstream and all these unique experiences. And I wish you nothing but the best in your travels, and I hope we can see you soon, maybe for another event, not just Carnival or MASH.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so too.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.